You can throw us listener questions at all those places like Twitter at N-E Café 2, in Europe forums, Facebook and Instagram at N-E Café Podcast. This one did come from the forums on the N-E Café thread from Eelst, and I've split it into 3 questions because he had a long question and we quite liked what he was going with. And the first question and I'll tell you what Eelst said about it as well. The first question he kind of wants us to broach is, what is your current backlog and how are you going about trying to cut it down? Now, Eel says he generally splits his time gaming between 2 platforms. I don't have that problem. He says he's got the Switch and Xbox, and he finds long period of times where he focuses on one console over the other, and then, you end up buying games for the console you haven't focused on, and then you end up with a massive backlog on one of the consoles rather than the other. And I used to find myself doing that with the 3DS and Wii U and other old legacy consoles. And he said, also I'm finding adding more things that I want to play much quicker than I can play the existing stuff. Thanks to watching game media in general, and that is not including the urge you sometimes get to replay something you've already finished. And I don't think we'll be helping by talking about some good games this week either. So that first question, what is your current backlog in terms of numbers? And Switch, we're looking, modern consoles, and probably PC as well with you, Nick. So let's start with Greg.
I can't give you raw numbers because I don't think I want to know. I would consider my backlog to be everything, including past consoles, but we'll probably get into that. And in terms of Switch alone, really, I remember saying in a few podcasts ago, it must have been a few months ago actually, that I felt like there wasn't that much really coming out to the Switch that I was really interested in, and I didn't really think I was going to buy very much for the rest of the year. I thought my buying was done, and I bought so many games since then. I probably into double figures. I would say maybe about 10 games or something since then. You just can't stop it. You just get that urge for something new all the time. It doesn't matter what you have. And I think I could quite happily retire into my backlog now and just never buy another thing again. And I would have plenty to play and plenty of things to go back and play again. But I don't even know how many games that I haven't finished on the Switch that I either need to go back and finish or even maybe start that I've picked up. I think my backlog is probably, in terms of Switch, is maybe not quite as big as some other people, because I see people buying stuff every week. Anytime there's something on sale, people are jumping in. I think I have about 70 games on the Switch. That doesn't include stuff like Fortnite, because I don't really consider that part of my collection, because it will be getting deleted at some point whenever I run out of space, because I just never ever play it. But I would say you're probably saying maybe about half of those are maybe not cleared.
The second part of that question was, how are you going about trying to cut it down? Or are you?
How am I actively... well, like I say, I've been adding to it really, so I've been bulking it up. If I had sort of stuck to my earlier vision of the year of not buying anything, I could easily have tucked in and cleared a few of those games up. There are games like Resident Evil 4, for example. I've beat that on previous consoles, so if I don't beat it on Switch, does it matter? It's I'd just be doing it just to because I haven't beat it on Switch, but just to have that one complete as well. So there are a few like that, like Onimusha and stuff as well. So I don't know if you could consider them really part of the backlog as such, or if it's just I just have them on Switch just for convenience, really. But I am sure we'll welcome to another phase where I'm just not really in the mood to buy anything new. There's nothing new coming out, and I will just settle in and play something there. Although I do always kind of find myself going through different sort of phases where like at the minute I'm just entirely focused on the Switch really, but I will eventually come to a time when it's like, I fancy playing something on the PS4 again, and I'll maybe just play that for like a month or something, and then eventually just realize that I'm not all that into the PlayStation again, and then I'll be back to the Switch and probably end up buying a few more things to build up the backlog even further.
Same problems, Eagle Stars.
Mm-hmm. Yep.
How about you, Nick? First part, what is your current backlog? How's it looking?
Well, to be honest, like, I don't know the raw numbers like Greg, but at a guess, I think I have about 120, 130 Switch games.
Unfinished, or games that need
Altogether,
to be
no,
finished?
like my entire collection is about 120. And then if you want to really get into numbers, I mean, do you break down Mega Drive collection? Do you break down the Nintendo Online and Super Nintendo Online apps or not?
Don't. I forgot all about that.
So I mean that takes it over 200 already.
Yeah.
And then on Steam, I've got about 100 games. So I mean, they're my two current platforms. Well, because Steam, my collection's been building for 10 years. I mean, the last 2 years, it's bulked up like considerably because I've never had a powerful PC. So I was always buying like classic stuff. Like I had Jet Set Radio and Papers, Please, like games that weren't very demanding but would run on my laptop. I usually bought them because I was interested in the game or because it was a retro game that I'd missed out on. And you know what? I'm actually not too worried about my backlog now. At the start of the year, I set myself a challenge to try and complete 52 games. I was on track for the first 2 or 3 months, and I'm still. I mean, if I really work at it, I could finish it, but I'm not too fussed about it now. Like, I think where are we? Middle end of June, I'm at like 20 games. So I'm a little bit behind the average of a game a week. But I don't know. Like, I just play what I feel like playing. And I kind of just stopped worrying about clearing the backlog now. Like, if I spent 150 hours playing Animal Crossing and I had a great time, and then I just was like, okay, I'm done with that for now. I'll go back to it eventually, of course, but I got my entertainment from it and then put it down, and Murder by Numbers came out, and I put like 10 hours into that in the first week just because I want to play a Picross game. And now I've kind of dropped off it a little bit, and I've moved over to PC a little bit, but I will finish it. It's just a case of playing it when I want to play it rather than rushing to get it finished or trying to do one game at a time. And in that way, stuff like Xenoblade 2 happens where I'll play it religiously for a week and then drop it for 6 months. And some games I can go back to in that way, and some games I have to start again, which is a problem because if you're starting games again, then that's a disaster because you're just wasting time basically playing it the first time. But I'm fairly relaxed about my backlog. I understand that I will never ever finish in my life. I'm not going to finish all the games that I own, and my buying habits have changed completely. Like, I used to be a day one person for Nintendo games. Like the first 2 years of the Switch, I bought pretty much everything on day one physical, and now I'm not buying anything until it goes on a deep sale. So in a way, obviously I got Animal Crossing on day one because like that was a movement and everybody had to.
There are exceptions.
Yeah, had to be a part of that. But for like Xenoblade's remastered, for Paper Mario, I'm not going to be paying 50 quid for them. I'm just going to wait. Like, I kind of want to play Pokemon Sword and Shield, but I'm in no rush to pick that up until it's maybe a good price with the DLC. I'll get it. It's had plenty of patches. It certainly seems to be better than it was at launch. And that's a bonus. Like, if you can pick up games a little bit cheaper when they're fully patched and fully working, then it's fine. Like, you still get to experience it. Maybe not at the same time as everybody else, but that's just the way it is, unfortunately. If you want to be there from day one, it's more expensive. And with regards to Steam, I posted on the forum yesterday, like, I've noticed that there's a lot of Microsoft and Sony exclusives coming to Steam. And for me personally, that's really exciting because there's a lot of PS4 and Xbox games that I looked at and thought, well, I'd like to play that, but I don't want to buy another console. So this week, Sea of Thieves went on Steam. which is something I've wanted to play since it came out on Xbox. So obviously I'll get that at some point. It's like £8 on Steam, so I can jump in whenever I want.
That looks interesting.
Yeah. Obviously, we've been talking about it a little bit. The F1 games, can't get them on Switch. That's a game that I'm prepared to buy at launch because it's like a FIFA. It's you play it the year it comes out, and the online is pretty busy and competitive, so it makes sense to jump in early. But then, like, you've got other stuff. Like, I picked up the Master Chief Collection, which I wanted to play on Xbox. I've noticed on Steam that there's games like Detroit Become Human, which was a PlayStation exclusive. Death Stranding's coming to Steam soon. So all of these
EA games are coming to Steam.
Oh,
as well.
yeah,
They've
all
never
the
been on Steam, haven't they?
EA games are on Steam. Obviously, I got Burnout Paradise a long time ago, so that must have been on Steam before Origin launched or something. But yeah, like Star Wars Fallen Order, Jedi Fallen Order, never would have even thought I would play it because it was a PS4 and Xbox and Origin exclusive, and I'm not downloading Origin. And now it's on Steam at half price, so I might get it. Okay, it came out a year ago, but it's interesting. So it's just even I have no problem waiting to play something like Death Stranding. When I heard people talking about it on the forum, and when I saw videos of it, I thought it looked fantastic, and I was like, I really want to play that. And then it's coming out next month on PC. So it's very expensive, so I'm going to wait. I'm not going to buy it straight away, but it's there. Horizon as well from the PS4 is coming next month to PC. So I'm in no rush, basically, to play stuff now. I have a huge backlog. I could play all of my games without buying anything for 5 years, and I still wouldn't finish them all. So I just play whatever interests me in the moment at the minute. And still, if there's a good game that I'm interested in that's on sale, whether it's on Switch or whether it's on Steam, then I will just buy it. And if it sits for a year in the backlog, that's fine. I'll get around to it eventually. And recently I moved half of my Switch wish list to the PC, and even at full price, the games are still
considerably cheaper.
Yeah, so stuff like the Talos Principle, Katana Zero, My Friend Pedro, all of these games look really cool, but they're 2, 3, 4 times cheaper on Steam. And then once they go on sale on Steam, you're talking £2 or £3. So I'm trying to be a little bit more economical, but I still want to play everything. But do you know what I mean? But I'm in no rush. So the backlog doesn't worry me as much as it used to. But I am going to try and do this 52 games in a year challenge. And I reckon if I can do that every year, then maybe one day I will get to the end of my backlog. But once I get married and have a family, I don't think it's going to stay like that, unfortunately. Especially with new stuff coming out all the time. So, whatever.
We're so similar, the three of us, but I made a concerted effort at the beginning of the year to write. Like you, I'm going to do that challenge of one game a week, and I'm up to 45 now.
Oh, wow.
I have considerably slowed down since playing Doom 3 and the game before. It's slightly larger games, so they've taken me a bit longer. But yeah, I'll easily go over that. But I also, in my mind, made this concerted effort to, I'm only buying games when they go on sale. Unless there's a big Nintendo first. And the kind of games that I bought this year are 51 Worldwide Classics and stuff like that, So I bought very little games that have come out new. So I made a concerted effort, I'm going to do that. And then the last couple of weeks, the sales have been fantastic. So I had whittled, and this is just my backlog. It's not all the games I play. So I think I've 45 already finished this year, and all from 2017. I haven't counted the rest. I've actually made a list of all the games I need to finish. And yeah, some of them are like Resident Evil Revelations 2, The Mercenaries, but I want to play it, I want to go into... I finished the first player part, the one player part, levels, but I would like to get in and do some of that online co-op stuff together. So that's on my list, There's things that maybe shouldn't be on my list, and I have broken things down. Mega Man Collection, I've broken them down to Mega Man 1, Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3. Each one is a separate game. And before the sales started, I had got my backlog down to 50, or just above 50, and I was really happy. I'm back I am back up to 78 games now, which isn't particularly large, but considering I started about that level at the beginning of the year, to be still there in the middle of the year is a bit heartbreaking. Especially
Right.
going, let me do it.
Yeah, breaking those collections down is like it's actually one of the reasons why I'm not actually that keen on collections of games, like buying like Mega Man collection, because like I have the Mega Drive collection, for example. There's gonna be several games in that there that I have absolutely no interest in ever playing. So it's like, do I consider those part of the backlog, or do I just like completely
Ignore
disregard those?
Check them off there. And then we're not taking into consideration, like you said, the NES games, the SNES games. There's over 43 NES games I haven't played yet, or finished. Some of them I played in the past, but not on the Switch. And there's over 20 NES, SNES games. So considerable. What am I doing? I'm just trying to play things as fast as, get through them. And like you though, Nick, I'm choosing a game I want to play rather than, I need to finish this.
Yeah.
So now and again, I'll get like a Mega Man. I fancy a Mega Man game, and I've worked my way through 1 to 4, but not in one go. I've done 1 and then I've left them, and I fancy a Mega Man game. Right, I'll go through 2. So I've got 5 and 6 to look forward to when that fancy takes me again.
Well, look forward to. I think they're not as good as the original.
I mean, like, a lot of people would maybe like complain about the backlog, that I have too much to get through, or whatever. But like, on the opposite side of the coin, isn't it great? Like when you just fancy playing a Mega Man game, it's right there. Yeah. I've already got it.
Yeah,
like don't need to go and buy it. Like one of my issues is like, for instance, you talked about there, like just completing a game just to get out of the way as quickly as possible, whatever. Like playing something like Katamari Damacy, like earlier in the year or last year, or whatever. Like I didn't enjoy that game at all. Like I tried to really enjoy that, and like I've beat it now. Didn't really get anything from the game. And sometimes I sit there thinking, I've got God of War on PS4 here to play. I've got Horizon. Like why am I not playing something like that instead of like wasting my time just to beat this rubbish?
Yeah, I kind of feel the same. I've binned off a couple of games that I just was like, this isn't fun, and just moved on to something else. I don't see.
I'm going to shock you now. Ollie Ollie was a recent game I did. I finished it on the 3DS. So the Wii U, on the Wii U. The original Ollie Ollie, and I thought I came to the end of it on the Switch. I thought, I can't be bothered. Bin it off. That counts as finished for me. So done.
Yeah.
I won't play it again.
I 100%ed Ollie Ollie, and I had a great time apart from the last couple of hours. But yeah, I understand exactly what you mean. Like, I'm trying to think of a game that I've binned off recently, and I can't. But nothing from recent memory anyway. But it's true. Like, if you're not enjoying it after 5 hours, and you're like, let's say 3 hours from the end, just spin it off. Like some people did with Hollow Knight in our pod pals. Like I was very, very tempted to do. Like I was tempted to do with Ori and the Blind Forest, but I stuck with it. I think if like Ori and the Blind Forest is a good example. If it hadn't been the pod pals game, then I think 60-70% of the way through I would just be like, no, I can't bother with this. Get rid of it. Chuck it in the bin. But yeah.
I think I've already completely written off Okami HD. I've already beat it. I already beat the game on Wii years ago. But like as soon as the game started up, I knew like I don't fancy this at all. Maybe a few years down the line, I will be grateful of having it there. I was like, I fancy a wee bit of Okami. I can't see it, but
to be honest,
I think
it's
get amnesia.
It's a funny thing for me, and it happens to me quite a lot when I'm in the eShop. And Resident Evil and Okami are examples of this for me.
They've had permanent price reductions as well, so they're $15.99 all the Resident Evil games. So in a future sale, they should hopefully go under a tenner. Anyway,
but yeah,
carry on, Nick.
Resident Evil 4 Okami. When I see them in the shop, I'm like, I'd love to play that again. And then I stuck on Resident Evil 4, and after 10 minutes, I was like, this is awful. Like the memory of the game is better than like actually playing it.
Well,
so
I see what you mean with Resident Evil 4. Like the game's obviously not awful. Like it is great.
Of course,
like,
it isn't,
when you've played it with like Wii controls and stuff, like, and then it's a bit trickier on the
is.
Switch.
But that's what you're saying. It's there now. It's there on a modern console in the collection. And hopefully, if we get a new Switch, all of these games are going to transfer and they're going to be, still accessible. I'm got my fingers crossed.
Yeah, me too.
But that means like you've got the most recent and the most up-to-date version of the game. And if, let's say, in 10 years you want to go back with your son or your daughter and say, "Oh, this was a good game back in like 2004." Then you've got it. You don't have to worry about it. It's just there. Maybe you have to download it again, but it's on your account and it's ready to go on a modern system. So for me, that's one of the biggest appeals about having a big backlog, is that everything that you've enjoyed in the past or everything that you would like to try is just there. And
Steam is good at that, isn't it?
Yeah. I mean, 10 years I've had some games on Steam. And some of them I still haven't played. But they're there if I want them. So, when you're getting games for £1 or £2 that you just can't say no, you might as well get it in case you want to play it in the future.
So Eel's second part of his backlog is about past consoles. He just says, "What about past consoles?" And then he adds about himself, saying, "My current backlog still includes many games from past consoles that in my head I'm still going to go back to and play at some point, but I just don't know when. And I think maybe I'll need to try and cut down on the YouTube viewing, not only focus on actually playing games more than watching people talk about them, but also stop filling my head with ideas that this is another game I must play when something comes up and looks even the slightest bit interesting." So, past consoles. Greg, I'm looking at the Skype picture of Greg there, and behind him is a Mario Kart poster, right behind him to my right, and then shelves of games.
I can see
Glorious
Dreamcast,
shelves.
Dreamcast,
You can't see
PlayStation,
Dreamcast.
Wii U, PS2, or is it PS3 below the Wii U?
Well, there's both. What you can't see is 3DS, DS, Game Boy Advance there as well, and GameCube directly behind me there. So yeah, plenty of stuff, and that doesn't obviously include like virtual console games and whatnot. So yeah, I would say back in when I started university in 2005, really, like obviously you get your student loan and whatnot, and a lot of people maybe spend it on like alcohol and nights out, and I assume some people spend it on their actual course, like what they need for it, books and stuff, and accommodation and whatnot. For me, like growing up, like on the Super Nintendo and N64 and stuff, like back in those early days, you didn't get very many games. You had like I think in total back at the time for the Super Nintendo, I think we maybe had like 6 games in total. And by the time like we moved on to the N64, so there was always like so many games that I never owned, and it was like I would love to own that. I'd love to own that. By the time like I started university and got student loan, and sort of like eBay became sort of a thing for me, I was able to like go to town and pick up all these old games that I never had the opportunity to play before. So like everything from like F-Zero X and the N64, Wave Race 64, just random SNES games that maybe my friends owned that I enjoyed, and then like I picked up a PS1, Dreamcasts. Done my best to like build up all the library of games that I was interested in from all those consoles, like Shenmue, Sega Rally, all those sorts of things. So there's I definitely at that time bought an awful lot of games that were pretty much directly going onto the backlog. I'd done the same when I got a PS2. I bought like so many games, like you have CX and stuff these days, and like getting games dirt cheap. So games that like are supposed to be good or whatever. Like I bought like Devil May Cry 1, 2, and 3, for example, Onimusha 1, 2, and 3. Like I've never touched like the third games in either of those franchises. I just bought them at the time because they were cheap, and it's like, oh, these franchises are supposed to be good. Like I am interested in playing these eventually, but like time is so precious now, especially since becoming a father and stuff. You never really get an opportunity to play those, and like obviously like we're speaking here, and you can see all those games behind me. This is like sort of like my kind of designated like game room kind of the amount of times I'm actually in this room, it's basically just when we're recording the podcast every week. I never get a chance really just to come up here and like chill out and dig into something anymore. It's basically like, if I can find 5 minutes when the wains aren't gurning about something, I'll grab the Switch, but even when I'm playing the Switch, it's like it's always like interrupted, or you never really get that chance to just sit down for 2 hours and just really get yourself engrossed in something, or pick out one of those games like from the PS2 or whatever and go, right, let's sit down and go into this here. So like, I almost don't really consider them all that much anymore, but there's stuff that I'm just looking around. There's like Kingdom Hearts 1 and 2 there in the PS2. I will never ever play those. But I like the backlog is huge, but it is what it is.
It'll come back to you, Greg. It will. I found that as my son is now getting into junior high school, he's 13, he's going on to 14. I found that my time is coming back to me, and I have been playing a lot more games than I should.
It's tricky, like, because like, I already feel like my sons are like growing up too fast. Like the time just seems to go by so quick, and like there are days when like you'll get up, you'll go to work, and you come home and you're driving home thinking, I just want to go home, lie on the sofa and play a game for an hour. And it's like that hour just never comes. You make dinner, you get the weans sorted out, you get them to bed, and then like by the time you've got them to bed, you've wrestled with them for dear knows how long, trying to get them to bed, brush their teeth and whatnot. And then it's maybe like 9 or 10 o'clock at night, and it's like, all right, I finally got that time where maybe I do have an hour to play something, and you're absolutely exhausted and so tired, and you can't do it. Like it's just, you're ready for bed yourself, and then maybe you do have that desire just to play something for a bit, and then like 20 minutes later, one of the weans is gurning, and you just go up and settle them. It's relentless, but I like at the same time I don't want to wish that time away, because like in about 15 years time I'll be wishing for these times back.
Yeah. Nick, past consoles. Do you hold on to your past consoles?
No, and when I look at people like Greg's collection, I regret getting rid of all the stuff that I've had. But then at the same time, I know I'll never play any of this stuff. So it's kind of like a double-edged sword, basically. Like you keep it and never play it, or you sell it and then regret it. And it's just, I don't know, it's weird. I sold my SNES to get an N64. I sold my N64 to get a GameCube. I sold my GameCube to get a Wii. I've still got my Wii, but I never play it. It's not even in the same country as me. I have kept my Wii U, and there's a couple of games on the backlog, but it's very unlikely that I'll ever go back to them. I've kept my 3DS, and I have about 15 or 20 games that I haven't finished on there. And after playing the Switch and having a PC, when you look at that 3DS screen, it's a miserable experience trying to play it. But then at the same time, like always since I was 15 years old, it was my dream to have a game room and to have all these games just on the shelf, and be able to pick any of them up at any time and whack them onto an old school TV and play them on the original hardware, and But I think it's difficult to find an hour to do that, especially if you have a family. So yeah, I don't know. Like I actually Sam has bought a GameCube, which is going to be mine. Like I'm gonna buy it off him, and he's got me like a selection of 10 games.
PAL GameCube.
Yeah, so when I go back to the UK, it was supposed to be in May, but obviously because of coronavirus, it didn't happen. So Sam bought me a GameCube and some games and a controller and a memory card and stuff. And obviously, when I go back, I'm gonna pick it up and like pay him for it and stuff. And it's exciting, but at the same time, once I get it back home, how much am I actually going to use it? Because I just accepted that, okay, GameCube is probably never going to come to Virtual Console. So I just decided, there's still some really good games on there, some that I haven't finished. So I just thought it would be nice to have it. But anything older, I'm not that interested in. For me, like NES, SNES, Mega Drive, all of that is perfectly acceptable. just sitting there in digital form. And I have no real interest in getting past console. I think the GameCube and the N64 would be a little bit more appealing because of the time when I had them. So, we're talking for like 11 to 16, 17 years old. And I think that those, for me personally, are just more of a sort of nostalgia thing. And GameCube games still run and look pretty good in comparison with N64 games. So going back to them isn't that difficult. And yeah, I don't worry too much. I enjoy playing Mega Man and Mega Drive games and playing the SNES app on occasion. I'll stick something on, but it's not something that I'm desperate to own physically. And I like having it there just in case I do get that urge, like you, to play Mega Man, which I've done a couple of times. Then I can just go do it without even thinking about it. So yeah, for me, past consoles not really anything interesting. I would prefer to have everything. I'm actually becoming more digital now, slowly. I probably will stick to getting some first party Nintendo games physical, but everything else is going to be digital for me.
I'm in a similar boat, and one of the reasons is because I'd moved to Taiwan.
Mm-hmm.
Everything that I had bought up to that point was in boxes in my mother's attic. NES, NES, N64, and the GameCube. I was using the GameCube at the time. I remember the last game I played through on the GameCube before coming to Taiwan was Resident Evil 4. I was playing through that. My wife was pregnant. She came back to Taiwan, and I was finishing off work, and sorting my passport out and travel documents to get into Taiwan. And I was, during the evening, and I was playing Resident Evil 4, so that's got quite good memories, but lonesome memories. Everything went. I took it all to Game Station, got in-store vouchers, and I had a hefty N64 collection as well. The other consoles I didn't have much. GameCube, I never had money to buy games. And the SNES, was a child kind of thing, I was early teens, 12, 13, 14, 15. So I never had many SNES games, but my N64 collection I was quite proud of. But nope, it all went, and I traded it in because I was traveling for the original Fat DS and a few games. And I don't regret it, to be honest. I don't regret it. Because if I move again, or I would love to go to Japan. I don't know if I'm going to come back to England. If I do, it's moving all the time. Carting all that around is impossible.
It is, yeah. I have experience with that as well.
Yeah.
Do you ever think about how much some of those games are probably worth now? And
Oh yeah, the gold copy of Zelda, Ocarina of Time, and Conker's Bad Fur Day.
Mm-hmm.
The prices that some of those N64 games are going for on eBay, and it's like, it is what it is.
You can never know though, and if you're in a position where you need money, my parents said when I got the GameCube that I had to buy it myself. They wouldn't give me any money towards it. For birthdays or Christmas, when you're not having another games console. So I had to trade in some N64 games. I was too young to work. I had no choice, basically. So I don't regret it either. It's just times move on, you upgrade stuff. And this is why I hope this generation backwards compatibility is going to remain. Because it's digital, that everything that you've bought is still going to work long into the future, which is why it's like Steam is a good example of that. You buy it once, 2009, doesn't matter, you can still play today, regardless of what hardware you're using. So that's what I hope.
So the current consoles I have is obviously Switch, but I do have my Wii U. But all the physical games, they've gone. Apart from, for nostalgia purposes, my son, when he was younger, loved Tank. We've kept that. And we've got Super Mario 3D World on there, and that's the only two physical. Nintendo Land is the third. We got 3 physical games. Everything else is digital on there. Very rarely go back to it. One of my colleagues who upgraded to a Wii U when Breath of the Wild came out, so he could play Wind Waker HD and Breath of the Wild on the Wii U. He he gave me his GameCube. Mm-hmm. It's an American GameCube. It's in a drawer. It's just sitting there doing nothing. That's how I got a GameCube controller and the 3DS. And I've taken some of those 3DS games and got rid of them. Even my Switch collection, my Switch physical collection. When I finish a game like Mario and Rabbids, which was a Switch physical, I'll go and trade it in. Mm-hmm. I don't hold on to those kind of one-player games, that one-and-done affairs, I call them, Captain Toad's Treasure Tracker, I played it through it, 100%,
got rid of it.
Take it.
But that's the thing as well, like, if you, like... Mario and Rabbids has been very cheap on the eShop, so if you do get the urge to play it again, you can get it digital. And then, I mean, if you buy it, finish it quickly, and then sell it, you're not really losing that much money, are you? You've experienced the game, and then in the future, if you get that desire and the price is right, you can pick it up digitally on the eShop.
Like Greg did with Crash, or Spyro.
Or
Crash, or one of them.
Or Crash, yeah. Crash. I kind of have the feeling with Animal Crossing at the moment. On the 3DS, for example, like I got New Leaf as part of a program where it's like you buy 2 games and you can download a game for free. And I chose Animal Crossing because I thought I wanted to try it and played 40 hours of it and was kind of done with it. On the Switch, I mean, Animal Crossing is kind of the perfect sort of game to have digitally. I used like my second voucher that I had for the eShop to download Animal Crossing, like a series I'm not that interested in, but like I say, it's a perfect sort of game to have digitally. Played it also for about 40 hours. I'm done with it, and I'm kind of like, at this point, my feeling is that I almost wish I had it physically where I could trade it in to have some sort of value back that I could maybe use towards something else, like maybe with like Paper Mario coming out soon or something, that I could put it towards that instead. But I'm kind of stuck with it now, and I probably will go back and play with it eventually and do my island up a bit more at some point, but the desire is just completely gone now. And I suppose with digital games, you either have them or or you don't,
Mm-hmm. And this is an interesting thing I would say as well. The fact that everything can be bought digitally now means that you probably won't get a physical copy of a game that's like the same way that Conker's Bad Fur Day was in the past, where it ended up reaching £200+ on eBay because it was so rare. But now you can get everything digitally. So physical games, it doesn't really matter if you hold on to them because it's very unlikely they're going to go hugely up in price unless that game gets removed from the digital store, probably.
I suppose there's a couple of, if you are a collector, collecting special limited edition kind of runs and all that, that's the only kind of thing that would retain their value and go up. But you're perfectly right. Things like Zelda Breath of the Wild, there's no chance.
It's still very expensive though, for some reason.
It's never going to go down.
Nintendo games.
I'm actually not sure if I've bought a physical game this year. I think all of my purchases have been on the eShop.
Same year. Yeah.
Like, it's always tricky with like Nintendo first party titles, for example. Like I know Paper Mario's coming out soon, like next month, and like I probably would like to play it. I'm not ready to play it immediately.
Mm-hmm. Same for me.
So like I probably will wait for it, but at the same time it's like I know the price of it is probably not really gonna go down. Yeah. So part of me is like, you just buy it now and you'll have it. But
this kind of blends into Eel's third point about buying games, and we talked about it as well. So I reckon we can fly through the rest of this. Eel says, I am also already trying to not buy any games unless I know I will play them immediately. Not 100% successful, but I have done better with this so far than the past few years. And he also says, I have tried the approach of making a list. Like I have a list there. Just it kind of focuses me on what I need to play, and I can just look through the list to create a play order to try and cut these back. But I find I always don't get into a game if I start it because I've scheduled a time specifically for it instead of just seeing it on the shelf and wanting to play it. But buying games is first point there. Has your thoughts of your backlog prevented you from buying games, or have you changed the way you buy games, Nick?
No, like I mentioned earlier, I just, if something is, I wait until stuff is cheap and then just buy it, regardless of whether I'm going to play it soon or not, because if I want it in the collection, then it's there in the future. So Steam has been very helpful in that regard because they have very deep sales usually. Nintendo eShop has started to get similar style sales, and I've picked up a lot of digital games this year on Switch just because they were on sale. Probably won't play a lot of them for a while, but it doesn't matter. And one thing actually I wanted to mention from the previous comment that I forgot to say is about cutting down on watching videos about games. So yes, I'm buying more games, my backlog is growing, but I'm not worried about it. But I'm trying to dedicate more time to gaming, and that means not reading forums, that means not watching YouTube videos or YouTube personalities, and just, playing games instead of doing that. So I think that's a very good point. I've saved a lot of time recently by just sticking to one or two online people or companies that I think make good content, like Digital Foundry, for example. I really enjoy everything they do. And just watching that and leaving all the sort of speculation, rumors, chat, just forgetting about it. It's not interesting. And you can save a lot of time if you do that.
You get it all here anyway.
Yeah. Exactly.
Greg, have you changed your habit of buying and spending?
Sales are the big thing. For example, this week there, obviously, I bought The Gardens Between. If I had just suddenly taken an urge to play that, if I'd seen it and thought, I really want to play that, there's no way I would have just dropped $17.99 on it. It's so there's other games, we spoke about Muller Russia Bleeds a couple of weeks ago. I didn't pick it up in the end, but at 89p, that's the time to buy it. You don't just wait till you have the desire to play the game as such. You sort of have to think, I know I do want to play this eventually. I'm maybe not in the mood for it right now, but if I do want to play it and it is on sale at a great price, you're obligated to buy it almost, because when that urge does strike, it might be full price again on the on the eShop, or there might be no good deals for it anywhere. Sort of run into the problem with Ring Fit Adventure, actually, because I would like to play that. It's obviously getting it anywhere is relatively difficult, and it is still full price everywhere. I'm not prepared to pay that amount for it, actually, because I don't know how much I will play it, or if I'll maybe play it for a week and then eventually drop it for a while, and then it's the sort of thing I probably would eventually come back to again, because I do dip back into Wii Fit all the time. But I think eventually that will in particular will get to a point where it's places are getting rid of it. Maybe it's whenever the Switch successor comes out, or a few years down the line, and I'll probably be able to get it for 10 or 20 quid or something. Who knows what weight I'll be by that time. But it's basically, it's just sales are the key there, and I won't be buying Paper Mario next month straight away, I don't think. And I do try to wait for sales now, but I do find myself, my buying habits are moving definitely more towards digital now. The Nintendo games, in particular the first party stuff, it's almost surprised me that they have been going on sale on the Switch occasionally. They've been getting them for 33% off. They're still relatively expensive, and compared to if you look across at the PS4, for example, The Last of Us 2 has just come out. That is a game I would like to play because I really liked the first one. But obviously it's 50 odd quid at the minute. I know that if I wait for a couple of years, I'm probably going to get that for $14.99 or something. And I am prepared to wait for it. I'm scared of getting spoiled on it, because I have seen review scores of that, Metacritic, for example, it's getting completely review bombed. And I'm curious to know why that is, but I don't want to know at the same time, because I've managed to steer clear of anything related to the story of that game. But with the Nintendo games, it's definitely different. So I do find myself like I already have like say Splatoon 2, Smash Brothers and stuff in my collection there physically. But because I am sort of going down that digital route a wee bit more, when they are going on sale at 33% off, I'm thinking, I am tempted to buy that, because I do find myself when I'm playing the Switch, if I'm not having to go and change the cartridge, I'm more likely to, to actually play the game. So like I don't play Splatoon anywhere near as much as I ever should have. And like Smash Bros is one of those where it's like, oh, I could just dip in and do a couple of the stages in World of Light and then maybe go and play something else. But because it's not on the system, it's like, I wouldn't mind doing a couple of wee rounds in it, but I'm not going to go and get the cartridge. I'll just play something else that I do have conveniently here. Yeah. So yeah, my habits are definitely going towards digital, but there's that fear as well. Partly running out of space, but also, like we said, the accounts going forward, we assume that this sort of stuff will transfer to maybe like the next console, but I wouldn't say that's a guarantee by any means. I mean, the next Nintendo system, like, you never know, might not even have any buttons or anything on it. You just don't know what Nintendo's going to do next. Like, so
it's not a guarantee. I think you're right, but yeah. I think now the place where the industry's in with the new consoles, with Microsoft having like a robust account system, Sony has one, Steam has one. If Nintendo try and break this tradition, I think it's going to backfire on them. I think people I hope in the next couple of years when the new Switch is revealed or whatever is revealed, that if they try and make us start again from zero, that people say this in 2022 or whatever is not acceptable. So I hope that's what happens if they try to go down that road.
I think both the PS5 and the Xbox Series X, I think I've seen stuff where it's like if you buy like FIFA 21, for example, on the Xbox One, you get a free upgrade to the next version. I can't see Nintendo doing that.
That's awesome. Anyway, my purchasing doesn't really change, but if it's a multiplayer game like Splatoon, I will get it digitally. If it's a single player experience like The Witcher, for example, that's a game that has got an end, I will buy that physically, because I know I there's no point in keeping it once I've done it. And then it is the sales. It is, I mean, it's just sale game. I'm looking at my most recent purchases. Duke Nukem sale, 50% off. I purchased Toki because nostalgia for one, but it was $2.69 from all the way down from 44 quid. Bought it.
Almost bought that one myself.
Yeah. And there's a couple of games then that have come on sale, and then I thought, oh, my son playing this, because they kind of got 2-player elements to it. Me and my son playing this together would be good for it to make a video on a YouTube channel. So things like Concept Destruction, which is like Destruction Derby with cardboard cars, and it's like, oh, it was on sale, right? I bought it. And it is kind of looking to the future all the time, like both of you have already mentioned. I'm buying something just because it's on sale. Anything else to add, boys?
You did say there you bought you've bought a few games just because it'd be good content for you and your son. Like that was actually part of the reason I bought 51 Worldwide Games in the end, because like I wasn't really going to get it, and I thought, well, it gives me a good chance to strike while iron's hot, like do a few wee videos on YouTube. I haven't had a single moment really to get an opportunity to do anything like that, so like the time is already kind of passed on that, and I haven't really had an opportunity to play the game that much. So
I've been dipping in and out of that. I've been enjoying, going in and thinking, oh, let's learn a game, and master it, because as you get through the levels, there's different people you can beat, and there's like a normal level, a hard level, insane. I can't remember, amazing. Then there's impossible, not insane, impossible. Once you do that, you master that kind of game. It's been fun going through those in single player, but it's in multiplayer where it's at, So yes, what would we do? I wish I had my capture card so that I could have started a bit earlier when 51 Worldwide Games was the zeitgeist, and I could have started just focus on this game, put a video out just for Ludo or whatever. But I'm sure next week I'm looking to get it. Good news.
Also, like the Pod Pals is a good opportunity to to clear something off the backlog, because like obviously we're both going through Doom 3 at the minute. I'm reluctant to say anything about it without saving it till the episode, but if it wasn't for the fact that we're doing it for Pod Pals, I'm not sure if I would like see it through, or maybe like I would see it through, but I wouldn't have that focus to like keep going back to it to try and get it finished in time for that episode. So like I know it's only once a month, but it might help a wee bit.
I think it's good to have just, you know, one game that we all play together and focus on, because then we can talk about it, and if we like it, it doesn't matter. At least we did it. And if it's a game that's, you know, 10 hours or under, I mean, everybody I think could find 10 hours in the space of 4 weeks, 5 weeks. You know, a couple of hours a week if you can spare it, and just for any game really in the future. I think if we did something like Xenoblade 2 for Pod Pals, it would be a different story. but no, it's a really good way, I think, of getting focused on one game just for a month, and then especially when you chat about it as well, because you know everybody's got a different perspective and a different opinion. And I think if people want to join us for Pod Pals and we can have a discussion on the forum, it's a good thing. And especially if it's going to be something that's a little bit older, and maybe some people have played or haven't played, you know, it's always nice to go.
Was it Jonas who's already shared his experiences about Doom 3?
But he played it like 10 years ago, I think. But it's interesting, but that's another perspective, you know, he's played it through, he remembers it, and we can compare what we think now to what he thought back then. And,
Come on, everybody, let's get on to the N-Europe Video Game Club thread. Tell us what you think of Doom 3. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to hit the subscribe button and give us a like if you've enjoyed our content. You can also check out our other great content on Twitter, Facebook, Instagram, and the N-E Café podcast from all good podcast providers. Just follow the links in the description below.